So thank you all for coming today. Today I'll go through, I guess, like an explanation of apartment hunting in Japan. Although this is a job fair, apartment hunting, it goes hand in hand um, with like living in Japan because you're gonna have to find a place to live if you're gonna work in Japan as well. So the title of this seminar is Apartment Hunting, The Struggle is Real. So the presentation contents, first I'll give a little brief introduction and then I'll go through the challenges of apartment hunting and then an explanation of how to overcome these challenges and a little conclusion afterwards. So a little bit about myself. My name is Christopher Ludgate. I've been living in Japan for 8 years now. Personally hunted for apartments 3 times and worked in real estate industry for the past year. Currently, I'm working on SEO and influencer marketing at Village House Management. So we're going to start off with a little quote here. You can teach an old dog a new trick if that old dog listens. It's by Snoop Dogg. And I think it's kind of relatable to apartment hunting in Japan because it can make you go crazy dealing with people who don't listen. But if you stay calm and find the right person, they will listen and help you find the best apartment for you. So now we'll go through some challenges of apartment hunting in Japan. So there's 6 main challenges, and they're all listed right here. So we have key money, deposit, cleaning fees, brokerage fees, renewal fees, guarantor fees, and sometimes there are cases of discrimination as well. So we'll go through these one by one. So the first one is key money. So key money came about after the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake. Most of the apartments were destroyed, so people started to pay like gratuity money to secure their spots. So you may be asking, why does this still exist today? And the reason is mostly tradition. So my boss likes to call this the fax machine effect. Because of tradition, Japan never wants to give up on things like fax machines, Internet Explorer 6, Microsoft 94, or flip phones. And the same is the case with this key money. If you're an owner, it's more money to receive if someone moves apartments. So the next one is security deposit. But you're probably thinking that you get your deposit back if you have a security deposit up front for the apartment. But in many cases, you don't receive your deposit back because you'll have to pay cleaning fees and stuff at the end. And in some cases, you might be with a bad realtor and they might just keep your deposit as well. So another one is from the deposit, these are cases for the deposit not being paid back to you. So sometimes any unpaid rent, of course that goes to the deposit, cleaning fees, repair fees, and these repair fees and cleaning fees could become very abstract if you don't do your apartment hunting very well. There's a thing called Niken, and you can do an inspection before you actually move into the apartment. And during that time, you'll have to list up every single detail about that apartment. And if there are scratches or something that you might have not noticed from before and they're still existent afterwards, then you might have to pay for those fees as well from the deposit. Just some things to be careful about. And there are also cleaning fees that you have to pay no matter what. These are the typical standards. It's about 1,000 to 1,200 yen per square meter. And these are the costs that it could round up to. So for a 60 square meter apartment, you might be looking at paying 60,000 to 72,000 yen in cleaning fees when you're leaving. So another one is repair fees. So there's normal wear and tear, faded tatami or flooring from sunlight, light dents on the floor from furniture, natural wearing of floor wax, and traces on the wall where a fridge or TV was placed. And then there's also like not normal wear and tear, deep marks, scratches, or water damage to the floor walls, tears to wallpaper, buildup of oil and grease in the kitchen. I'm sure you guys have all experienced this sort of stuff in your own homes in the past. And these are things that could also add up to your repair fees. So next is brokerage fee. So by law, you have to pay a maximum of 1 month's rent plus consumption tax for brokerage fee. And this is usually the case if you're going through like a broker for an apartment, instead of going like directly to a real estate company that owns the apartment. You'll have to pay generally about 1 month rent for brokerage fee. And then there's renewal fees. So renewal fees is when, yeah, oh, higher up. All right. So renewal fees typically cost around like 1 month rent to 2 months rent, and you gotta actually like pay like another extra, I guess like a month or two of rent every 2 years when your contract ends. Maybe your contract ends earlier, maybe it ends later, but typically it's about 2 years. And it's not required by law, but depending on your contract, you might have to pay renewal fees. So rental guarantors, they might actually be one of the biggest challenges in Japan because most apartment owners in Japan require you to have a rental guarantor and covers any rent or damages if you don't pay them. So the guarantor, you basically have to find like a person who actually has like Japanese nationality to sign off on the contract to say that they'll pay in the place of you if you don't end up paying like your rent. And this could be very challenging for foreigners in Japan, especially if you don't have like, I guess like a Japanese friend that's willing to sign on as a guarantor or a family in Japan. So here are typical examples of guarantors. So of course you could always have a friend or a guarantor company or school. And finding these people, sometimes you'd have to pay for the guarantor, and these fees could typically round up to like additional month's rent, and you might have to pay like a fee monthly as well. So if you were to like add up all these upfront costs, assuming that your rent is goman per month, so 50,000 yen, it could add up to almost 6 times as much, the monthly rent. And paying, I guess, like 3,000 or about like 300,000 yen up front, that's a pretty high cost for a lot of people, and it could be very challenging to have that sort of money available to you if you want to just like move in right before you start off your first job. So now we'll go into discrimination types. Sometimes being a foreigner, maybe race, LGBT, or unmarried, your income or job, you or your guarantor, and then bad impression. I don't know if you have like tattoos or you're late to an interview for your apartment, then these sort of things, you may be judged by the person that's renting out the apartment and discriminated against. So here's some statistics on just like foreigners being refused tenancy, for being foreigners. It's just, this was done on like a survey, and 39% say that they have been discriminated in Japan. 50% say no, and then 8% no response. But about 40% saying that they were refused tenancy because they're a foreigner is relatively high. And this is the case still in Japan, which is kind of sad. So the game plan, how you can basically overcome these things. Here's some advice. So first thing you could do, you can negotiate. You could also like go off season instead of trying to go to getting an apartment during the peak season, during really competitive times. Avoid repair fees. Use portal websites and brokers instead, and foreigner-friendly real estate companies. and try to look reliable. So we'll quickly go through this. How much time do we have? All right. So what is the current negotiation environment like in Tokyo? So actually, there's some good news for everyone here. Compared to 10 years ago, the amount of apartment owners requiring deposit has decreased significantly. In 2010, only 9% of apartments had no deposit. In 2019, 25% of apartments have no deposit fee. Also, the average number of months deposit required is declining as well. So in the past, places might have required you to have 2 months deposit. Now, just 1 month deposit. So if we moved on to key money, it's a very similar story. Compared to 10 years ago, the amount of key money required is declining. About like 1.28 months key money in 2010 to about 1.03 in 2019. Also, overall, there's less owners that are requiring key money. In 2010, only 28% had no deposit. Now, 39% have no deposit. So what to negotiate? So first, I suggest negotiating key money and renewal fees. You may be thinking, why not deposit? Well, there's a chance that you may get some of your deposit back, but you won't get any of your key money or renewal fees back. Second, I recommend brokerage fees. So you pay key money to the owner, but brokerage fees to your agent. So you can actually try to negotiate both. Brokers will usually try to compete to get you to move in with them. So if you're going with 2 different brokerages at the same time, then you can get them to kind of negotiate down their fees. So then you actually pay out the fee to them. All right. And then it'll probably be difficult to negotiate a reduction in both key money and rent, but you can give it a try. If the apartment doesn't already have key money, then you could try rent cost. So another example of how you can negotiate, if you search during the off season, then more real estate companies will be giving you like competitive rates. So the peak season is usually between January and April, when there's a lot of people moving, just because that's the time when a lot of people move into their jobs or they graduate from school. So the off season is generally from May to July. So give yourself at least 1 month, and this will give you kind of like more time to go with a good strategy when you're looking for an apartment, as well as more time to negotiate. So how to avoid repair fees. Don't be surprised when you leave that you have to pay repair fees. Document everything when you first move in. I would highly recommend taking like a video, because picture evidence, video evidence is probably the most effective as far as being able to show that you were able to find like some damage or something and that was existent before you moved in. I know that real estate companies, they'll generally have like a piece of paper that you write down things, and they'll try to move it as quickly as possible, but I highly recommend doing this to keep the repair fees as low as possible. Usually you'll get a property checklist, and make sure that you fill it out completely. And also you could like put up vinyl sheets and carpets everywhere, all over the wall to kind of minimize the chances of damage. And throw away garbage before you move out, or you could also be charged for basically like handing off garbage to be cleaned by the like cleaners from the real estate company. So here are the top portal sites in Japan. You have Real Estate Japan, Gaijin Pot, Japan Times for like English support. And then there's the Japanese only ones, Sumo, Lifeful Homes, Chintai.net. And then agent communication is key. So online English agent list. If you go through someone who's dedicated that you can talk to easily, if you're going to the real estate agent route, then there are some good resources online. or you can ask friends. I'm not sure if like most of them are living here, but if you have any friends that have searched for an apartment before, or they might have been living in Japan for a long time, it's always good to ask, reach out to them and find out what their experience is, because those primary resources, they're very useful as far as like knowing what's going on in the scene currently. So foreigner-friendly real estate companies. There are two main players for foreigner-friendly real estate companies. Short-term rentals, share houses. So they're good for furniture and if you want something temporary, but very bad for privacy. And then real estate management companies. These are companies that own a large amount of apartments nationwide, such as us. And they make a contract that's direct and rather than with a broker. So basically you can go around having a brokerage fee. So a little bit about Danchi Living. So UR and Village House Management are two major real estate management companies in the Japan market. We offer Danchi properties. They're a bit older building, but they're renovated out. So they're made out of like reinforced concrete. They're very safe, low upfront costs, no deposit, no key money, no renewal fees, usually no guarantor fees, and no brokerage fees. We have full English support, and there's no discrimination. So shameless plug. So new dog, new tricks. Village House offers apartments countrywide with no key money, no deposit, no renewal fee, no brokerage fee, and up to samman in moving support. So 30,000 yen in moving support. It's very affordable to move with Village House. And here's some recommendations. If you're going for like an interview, please look reliable. Try to hide your tattoos. Dress neatly for the interview, and make sure you show up on time with your paperwork finished, and you should have no problem at all. Thank you. Do we have a little time? Oh, okay. We could do a short Q&A if anybody has any questions to ask about real estate in Japan. Nope? All right. Here you go.
Thank you for taking my question. What in situations like when you own a car, so like adjacent things that you might need, so like a parking space. I know in some cities I heard, you have to pay monthly for like bike parking at your property. So anything like that, any information on that?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So some properties, they offer like free parking. Other places, you might have to pay kind of like an additional fee. So similar to like, I guess like any other add-on, right? If you want to pay like a 1,000 yen fee for parking instead of purchasing your own parking lot, that's also an option. And generally, if you're like renting out or something, that might be more viable. But in places where like parking lots aren't competitive at all, it should be really low cost. But places where, of course, there are like parking spaces that are pretty scarce, then you'll probably have to, most likely have to pay a cost. So I would believe, like, especially in Tokyo, a parking space, you would probably have to pay like an additional amount added onto your rent monthly. But if you're, say, in the countryside or something, this could also differ. And prices vary for your village house as well. Thanks. Any more questions? Oh.
Hi, thanks. Do you have any recommended certain area that for the people that just get the job? I mean, like Tokyo is mostly like really expensive, but within Tokyo area also there's something like lower cost or good, better living around there. Thank
Well,
you.
Yeah, thanks for your question. One question for you. Where are you thinking about, like, I guess, getting a job? So if you're in the countryside, then you'll have to find a place that's close to your workplace, right? But if you're looking for a specific place in Tokyo, generally a lot of people would commute from like Kanagawa, Saitama, or Chiba. And depending on like which side of Tokyo that you're most likely going to go for your like office or something. So say that you're located in Itabashi, then you might want to look into possibly renting in Saitama. If you're located somewhere nearby here, then we actually have a really affordable apartment in Shiomi. That's in Kotoku. That's about like, it's 10 minutes away by train. But if you go further, you could also go to like was it like Funabashi or like in Chiba, where it's a little further, like a 30-minute commute, but the rents could be almost like half the cost that it would be in Tokyo. Um, so it's really, I guess, like dependent on what sort of lifestyle and how you want to live. If you want like a big space, I'd recommend moving out further. If you want to be as close to the office as possible, then maybe you'll just have to have a smaller space and spend more time outside. Yeah. Does that answer your question? All right. So we're out of time, but if you guys have any other questions about real estate, Village House's booth is right over there, and you can ask me any questions. Feel free to reach out. Thank you.